Hi, I'm Deanna Springer. On behalf of Nancy Zeman Productions and PBS Wisconsin, welcome to the virtual Great Wisconsin Quilt Show. Enjoy this educational presentation, and afterward, be sure to explore all the virtual event has to offer, including beautiful virtual quilt exhibits, an interactive vendor mall, and more. Thank you for joining us and enjoy the show.
Hello, I'm Tammy Bowser from Mosaic Quilt Studio, and today I'm going to show you how to sew art. But I'm not going to show you what you've seen before. I want you to consider some new things, and I hope to inspire you to make art quilts. I want you to imagine that you can make quilts that are museum quality quilts, and I'm going to show you exactly how I do that the easy way. This is an example of one of my students who has followed my instructions, and you can see the amazing portrait she has there hanging at a quilt show. In showing you these quilts from my students, I want to prove to you that I'm not the only one that can do this. Here's 6 ladies that did it and made these quilts in a 3-hour class. Here's some more student quilts. They have done amazing things. Just follow the simple instructions. And this is like a kit from the class, and it just turns out just fantastic. I think this portrait of this puppy is really beautiful. And so there's many more students, and I'm going to prove to you that you can do it too. But first, I want to tell you a little bit more about myself. I began sewing at 4 years old. I made my own clothes in junior high school. There's me on the left. I made that purple velvet mini skirt, and I had a matching vest. And I remember making it by hand, sewing it by hand. My grandmother showed me how. I eventually went on to fashion school, the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising here in Los Angeles. And I worked in the business as a pattern maker for many years. And it's probably part of why I have such a different approach to making art, to quilting. I mean, because when I think about myself, I don't really think of myself as a quilter. I think of myself as sort of an architect, and it's because of my background. Here's a picture of me when I was a young design student. And then after that, I just, this whole thing came about, making these art quilts came about when I was at home watching quilting TV shows. There was one in particular called Simply Quilts, and I decided to try making a quilt after watching those shows while I was at home with my baby. And I made the first quilt in a more traditional way, and it took so long, and I really was not wild about the fact that it took me 6 weeks to make a lap quilt. So one night, as I was falling asleep, I just said a simple prayer. I asked God to give me an idea, and I woke up with an idea. And the idea, I was wondering how to make, if it's possible, to make a photograph using fabric. And so I went about, it took me about a week. I went about, I had theories in my mind. It woke up with theories and the idea, but as to how to do it. And it took me about a week to make a pattern, and I did it, and I thought it was horrible. I couldn't see the picture, and I thought, what a waste of time. I had pasted it up on the wall in this very room, in fact, and I didn't see it until I was trying to leave the house to go to the supermarket or something. And as I walked away from it, man, I saw the picture. I couldn't believe it. And it was really, it was really like that aha moment. I hope you get that aha moment that I'm talking about soon. I'm going to give you some details. But so I made those first quilts, and wow, I decided, okay, I'm going to figure out how can I share this? How can I, you know, how can I share this with other people? And so I made a little book that I printed at Kinko's or someplace, a copy shop, and I decided to do a quilt show and try to see if people would like it. And nobody, no, I didn't sell not one thing. I did 2 or 3 shows, and I decided, man, this is a bad idea. I can't go any further if I don't have, something that's more substantial than this and make people get their attention. And I decided to write a proposal to a book publisher. And I also decided to email Alex Anderson from the Simply Quilt show that I'd been watching and see if I could be on the show. And I got a reject notice from the book publisher, but I had one last thing. I was waiting to see if they would call me it was a long shot. Don't get me wrong. It was a long shot, but I waited. I didn't have anything else to do and a few months later, the producers emailed me and told me my date to come on the show was in June. It's like outrageous. I felt like I had never even been in a quilt shop at this point. So I made more quilts. Here's me on that day. I didn't have time to write a book. So what I did, because I didn't want to miss my chance, what I did was I made the book cover and I pasted it on the front of another book. And that's what I had on the set on national TV. Can't believe I did that, but I did. But it worked too. So there's me on that day. I didn't have the real book. So we taped the show in June and I began to write the book in July. And it took me 6 weeks to complete the book. I had to learn how to publish. I had to learn how to, do all the things that are required to publish a book. It took me the same 6 weeks as it took me to make that more traditional lap quilt that I made at before the first quilt I ever made. So I knew when I ordered the books, when you self-publish, one of the things that makes things a little bit different than when you publish through an outside publisher is that they deliver the books to your house, and I ordered 5,000 books and I live in a 750 square foot house. So, I just remember them loading all these books. So I knew I needed to sell some books, and I decided to go to the big quilt market and quilt festival, and, I was all in. So I did go and I start to get more attention. There's, on more of the TV shows, including Nancy Zieman and Sewing with Nancy. It was very exciting, and it's still remarkable to me when I look back at all the things that occurred just from this one little idea. So my work has been in many books, many magazines. And I'm going to show you how right now. So what is this quilted photography? I want to show you what it is. It's very simple. It's squares of fabric put together in a way that causes you to see a photo. It's a study in color value. That's one of the major things. I'm going to give you some tools on how you can understand it. Hopefully, before we finish, you'll be able to even just look at fabric and notice the color value. It's a weekend project, and it's an exciting way to transform your cherished photos into works of art. So if you look really close at any image, whether you're on a computer screen or whether you're on your phone or even a newspaper, it's always pixels. Those pixels are just colors or values. That one of the things, I haven't mentioned this yet, when I was wondering if I can put fabrics together to create an image using these pixels, I didn't know if it was going to be a lot of pixels or if it was required to have, hundreds of fabrics to make the image appear. So my initial experiments were reducing the numbers of pixels and also reducing the numbers of fabrics, of course, to keep it simple. We want to make it easy, not make it hard. So this is the book I made, that first book. I really did publish the book. And let me show you what is in there and how these pixels become an art quilt. All the patterns are just squares with numbers. And so the patterns always have numbers in those squares, and that represents the color value of the fabrics. And it looks complicated, but it's really not. If you're using 9 fabrics, the numbers would only be 1 through 9. 1 is the lightest, and it progressively moves up to the darkest. That's it. And so when you make your palette at the beginning, you just make it light to dark, number them. 1 is the lightest up to the darkest. And where the numbers are, you place those fabrics there. And as you keep placing the fabrics according to the numbers, the photograph just shows up in fabric. It's pretty wild. It's pretty great. And this is really the bottom line. It's the basis. I mean, we're going to get a little more fancy than this, but this is the bare basics of what quilted photography is. I really like what Vincent van Gogh said in 1885. He says, the best pictures, and from a technical point of view, the most complete, seen from nearby, are but patches of color, side by side, and only make an effect at a certain distance. That's exactly what this is. So I really didn't make it up. It's something that is just always there in your everyday life. You just probably haven't noticed it. Nancy Zieman, she spotted me at Quilt Market probably a year or two after that initial book. And I had this quilt here on the cover. It's a picture of my grandmother hanging in my booth. And she saw that and she said, well, what is this? You know, and I told her, I call it quilted photography. And she invited me to come on her show. But this book was a little bit different because I was tired of sewing all of those squares together. And I was wondering, can I just fuse them down? You know, will it work? You know, will it still look like the picture? I really didn't know. And so everything has been an experiment, and I share my triumphs or my, you know, things that work, and I also share my failures. But this was one that was really, really good. I also had to learn how to do free motion, because remember, I wasn't really a quilter. Even though the end product looks a little different, because I'm not lining up and matching a square into each square pixel. I still start with a grid with numbers. It's the same thing, you know, just because there's a line here or a line there doesn't mean I have to stay in the lines. So in this book, I started to place fabrics, twisting them, turning them so that I'm following the numbers, but not staying in the lines, and fusing them down instead of sewing all of those seams. You can use, you know, squares and twist them and turn them. You can also use strips. This is one technique I really like because you get the chance to learn the concepts, and the quilt goes together very, very, very quickly, like a day or so. You keep following the numbers, and the more numbers that are in the same row, that's how big the piece becomes. You can also turn them the other direction if the number dictates that. That's one of my favorite techniques for beginners. And so this quilt, it's a quilt of my grandmother, and actually it was traveling in an exhibit for quite a while. And when it was finished, I got a call from a museum, and they wanted to purchase it for their collection. So I'm real proud of that. And but I'm trying, you know, my aim is to show you that you can do the same thing because the process is easy. So I still always exploring. That's part of the fashion industry in me. I'm always exploring new ideas and trying to understand and stretch myself. And so at this time, after that second book, this time I was wondering, well, what would happen if I would slash it up and chenille it? You know, I didn't know if it would work. This is, you know, was it going to be a failed experiment? And of course, you see that there's a book, so you know that it was not a failed experiment. It works as well. and it works really great. But at the time, Nancy Ziemans, or Sewing with Nancy, they were doing well selling the book in the catalog, and they heard that I was thinking about doing a chenille book. I don't know how they figured that out, but I wasn't ready to do this book yet because I was thinking about some other things. And I'm going to show you what those things were. I was starting to be inspired by artists like Van Gogh, and I wanted to know or figure out how I can make pixels or quilts using pixels and have all of this organic kind of movement, how I wanted to be able to stitch and do all of these things. In the last book with the ballerina, I was avoiding free motion because I didn't know how to do it. I have never taken a quilt class to this day. So for that, I had an embroidery machine, and I digitized the spiral, and then I hooped it over and over for the one that the museum purchased. So I was skipping around, avoiding this free motion. But at this time, after I didn't want to do any more of that, and I was looking at artists like this, and I just wanted to figure out, how is it possible to make my quilts look more like true art, not like, digital stuff. So I also like Andy Warhol because he uses color in a way that's, not necessarily traditional. And I found that I like that approach as well. And here's another saying by Vincent van Gogh. He says, instead of trying to reproduce exactly what I have before my eyes, I use color more arbitrarily in order to express myself more forcibly. And that is exactly right. If you decide to try what you've seen today so far, I urge you not to look for ugly flesh tone fabrics. They're not very pretty. There's much more that you already have, much more beautiful things out there, and they make fabulous, fabulous quilts. Here's another artist. His name is Chuck Close, and I liked him because he is, playing around with pixels as well, and he does fabulous work. They're using paint, of course, but still fabulous. And Gustav Klimt, I saw these paintings, and I was like, wow, look at all of those textures and all these, to me, I'm thinking in fabric, that would be amazing. So it was like, I was trying to figure it out. And look, this is what I came up with. And I'm going to show you why it's exactly the same thing. I have written a book, How to Sew Art, and it still starts with a grid with numbers. Like you're wondering, how is that even possible? Well, you see the numbers, and if the numbers are the same and touching, those numbers get grouped together into a bigger piece, and then you round off all the edges, because when you do a portrait, there's no hard corners. So each piece is different because it all depends on the shape of the piece, all depends on what the numbers are and where they are in relation to one another. If they're touching, then they become one piece. So you just follow the numbers, and the end result is something like this one. This is my quilt called Song. I actually entered Quilt National in 2007, and I won the Japan Award. I hope you are learning something so far, because I do not withhold my any secrets to keep you from having the same kind of success I've had with these ideas and with using pixels in such an amazing way. But we haven't talked too much, or I've only talked a little bit about what makes it work, and that's color value. And I'm going to show you that in just a moment. But this quilt Song has also been recently purchased back by the people at Quilt National for the International Quilt Museum. So I'm really proud of that. And I made this quilt in just 2 weeks. How is that possible? It's because it's simple. It really is. So color value, let's talk about it for a moment. Color value is what causes you to see 3D images pop out. Look how you can see all of these shapes coming out at you, and it's just light, medium, and dark. That's what causes it to happen. There's another example of what you can do with 3D. The houses look like they're coming off of the quilt. So this technique or this understanding of color value, I'm going to give you some tools in a moment. This understanding of color value will make your art quilts better if you're doing quilts that like mine, or it will also make it better if you do traditional quilts. So this is an important skill to have, to see color value. You see those triangles and squares coming right at you, but it has to do with color value. I mean, I know when you go in a quilt shop or at a quilt show and you're looking at all the fabrics, everyone's always drawn to the most beautiful, colorful fabrics. But if you have a quilt of only those, then it becomes flat. What makes these boxes, they're hollow boxes, makes you see those shapes in these images. It's because of light, medium, and dark. So if you incorporate, make it your mission to always incorporate light, medium, and dark in any of your quilts, it's going to make those beautiful, bright midtones show up and be able to be seen a lot better. So here's one of the ways I do it. I call it the photocopy method. And you just tape them to your fabric choices. Try to get light, medium, and dark fabrics and put them on a sheet of paper. Well, nowadays you can use your cell phone and take a picture and change it to grayscale. You can also use a photocopy machine. You just photocopy them in grayscale. And what that does is it erases the color and leaves the value and makes it easy to see. Now you're not distracted by the color anymore. And then you just move them in order from the lightest to the darkest. Look how different that looks. And then when you put them back in the regular colors, then you're not confused by it. That's one of the best ways to do it. Here's one of my other great techniques that I really like, and it's called I use a value isolation tool. That's what I like to call it. And if I place my fabrics in order, my intention is to go from light and dark from this direct, starting from the lightest this way and moving along toward the darkest. I place the isolation tool on top, and I only ask one question over and over. My question is this second one here darker than this one here? And if the answer is yes, then you move over and continue asking the same question over and over. If you're trying to put a whole pile of fabrics in order from light to dark and you don't have a method to break it down, it's going to seem like a really daunting task. But if you break it down into smaller, easy to answer questions, then it becomes simple. So again, I'm going to ask, is this one here darker than this one before it? I think it is. So then I'm going to move it over. It's that simple. And then I'm going to ask the question again. It's only one question. Is this one darker than this one? I don't think so. So what do? You just find its place. Its place will have to be behind it somewhere if it's lighter and not darker. So you change it and you continue on. Then you keep asking the same question. You ask it again and again. That one was lighter, so change it, and then it's in its right order. So I hope you understand that. If you want to come to my website, you can and request one of those value isolation tools, because this is a valuable tool, and I hope you will use that in all your quilts. Another way I like to do it is by using software, my software method. I have software called the Valuations, and you scan your fabrics, little pieces of your fabric, and make JPEG files. And then you just click load fabrics. And then you locate wherever you save those fabrics, locate them and select them all. When you push OK, they will show up in the window, all of them. And the last thing you need to do is push the button up here, sort fabric. And look what happens. Puts them in order from light to dark, just like that. So you can also find that at howtosew.art.com. Again, I'm going to give you an overview. This is a quick overview so you see the whole process. So again, we always start with that grid with numbers. Those numbers are not complicated and they're not scary. They just represent color value. You choose your fabrics, any fabrics you like. But the rule is you have to have lights, mediums, and darks. You put them in order from light to dark. You can use the photocopy method. You can use the fabric isolation method. You can even use the software method. And then you put them in order from light to dark. And I like to place them if I'm using small pieces in a craft box like this, and number the compartments so I remember what number each fabric is, so I'm not struggling when I'm putting the quilt together. So the pattern also gives you more information, like how much fabric you're going to need, how many of each square of each color, all the information you need. The pattern prints out in 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper, and you tape them together to get the whole picture. I lay the pattern on the table, and I always put some sort of stabilizer or interfacing with the sticky side up right on top of the pattern. And I'd like to use a nice light weight interfacing because it allows you to see the numbers right through it. And then you place the fabrics by the numbers, pulling them from the little craft box and following the numbers. And the more you follow the numbers, the more the picture shows up in the fabric. It's simple, but it's really amazing. So if you want to get valuations, you can, I want to offer you a 50% off for bearing with me and listening to me. So if you're interested in that, you can get it for $20. Also, if you want to try quilted photography, my software is called Quilted Photo Deluxe, and I want to offer you a $70 off Quilted Photo Deluxe. I will throw valuations automatically included in the software package, and of course, I'll send you a value isolation tool to go with it for free. You'll also get my online video course to go with it for free, because I don't want to let you, get the software and you forget everything I just showed you and explained. So if you want to get that special, go to howtosew.com/deal. If you are interested in any of my books, they are available on Amazon. You can search for How to Sew Art or Quilted Photography, and you'll be able to find all 5 of them. So I want to thank you for watching, and I hope you learned something today.
Thank you for joining with us today for How to Sew Art the Easy Way with Tammy Bowser. We're glad you're here with us today, and we're glad to have Tammy with us here today, live for live Q&A, live from her home studio in California. Welcome, Tammy.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you, Deanna.
It's great to have you here.
It is smoky here, so.
We're thinking of you here in Wisconsin and all over the country. Our hearts are with you, and thanks for being with us today. And we have some questions from the viewers. We've enjoyed watching your lecture presentation, and it's created some questions. So I have my laptop here. We'll take a look. A comment from Sandy. Love your great fabric portraits with great value contrast. Beautiful colors and imaginative quilting. So that's more of a compliment than a question, Tammy, but that she sure sums it up. Thank you, Sandy. Barbara in Arizona has a question too. Oh, what is the title of the first book you mentioned in the presentation, Tammy?
It's called Simply Amazing Quilted Photography. I'll never forget it. The first time I wrote a book and gave it to someone, and it was like a pivotal moment. Yes.
Congratulations. And all your books that you talked about today are available at Amazon, correct?
Yes, they're all of them. Just search for my name and you'll be able to find them.
Wonderful. And we have a question from Tina. Tina's curious, when did you create your first quilt? What year?
Shortly. What year was it? Year 2000. It was just before I started doing my quilted photography, actually. I'd only made one quilt before doing it. I wasn't a quilter at all. I worked in fashion.
Yes. Well, maybe a traditional piecing wasn't your thing, but boy, your pictorial quilts are just spectacular, Tammy. So you're a quilter. We believe it. Judy has a question. Judy is asking, what is the base of your projects? What do you use to fuse them down? So we know you use fabric, and you talked about fusing.
Yes, I use I have two options, or there's two options you can use. You can use Steam-A-Seam, which is a readily available product. Um, but I also like to make my own fusible, sticky fusible web. That's what I call it. And it's a layer of parchment paper, then plain fusible web, and then I spray it with a basting spray. And you can make any size you want, and sometimes you want to make a big project, sometimes you want to make a small project, but it all comes out very economical to do it that way. So that's what I've been using for the last few years. You make it yourself.
Very creative. Carol is asking, is there something small to start with for those of us who don't feel we're so artistic? Should we start small, or is it easier to go with a medium-sized project?
The size that I like to start with is about 20 inches by about 26 inches, something like that. It's not too big. It goes very quickly. And to go smaller than that actually makes you have to work with tiny pieces, which can get harder. So the optimal size to start with is a nice wall hanging size, actually.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, Tammy. I did bring along with me today to the studio the quilt that you made for Nancy. It's of her granddaughters, and it was in your opening shot. And this piece is square. It was in your opening slide of Avery and Luella. And this piece is about 24 by 24. So it's what you showed on the Sewing with Nancy episode with Nancy. And it's great step-by-step how-to. And you can watch that program with Nancy and Tammy anytime at nancyzieman.com.
It's kind of nice to see that quilt. I haven't seen it in a while.
I thought it would surprise you today. And I'll bring it back. I'll bring it back a couple times because I want to talk about the stitches too.
Sure.
Jill has a question. Could you please share your website address again for us?
It's simple as howtosew.art.com. Easy to remember.
So we'll just go to howtosew.art.com and we'll find you there. And
Yes.
and I've also quickly just put you in the Google search and you come right up there, Tammy. So Kathy is asking, how big are the pixels on the grid? You talk about making the grid and each grid has a number. How big are those squares or those pieces?
If you use in my software, you decide how big the pieces are. So, I mean, in that determines how big the finished quilt is. So say if there's 100 pixels across, if you do those pixels 1 inch, then it's going to be 100 inches. If you do it 1/4 of an inch, it's going to be 25 inches. So it's based on simple math, and you decide how big the pixels are when you go to print it out. So the computer doesn't like spit out some arbitrary number that's really large if that's not what you're trying to do. It's user friendly.
Do you have a favorite size pixel you find yourself using more often than others? Like 1 inch or?
Of course, it depends on the technique. For the one like on the last show with Nancy where we combined the pixels together, I went smaller, like a 1/3 of an inch. But that's because we weren't cutting one pixel at a time. We were grouping them together and we're looking for that organic shape that's formed when you group them together. But if I were going to do one that we were fusing down the strips or squares, I like to go a 1/2 inch. And then if I were going to piece the squares where I needed seam allowance, I go 1 1/4.
Great
So
advice.
it depends on the technique. Yeah, it depends on the technique.
And kind of related to that, Doris is asking, are some subjects easier than others? You have quite a few people in your quilts that look great. And she has a German Shepherd in a lemur pattern and then got stuck with so many numbers. So what is your advice for starting with a subject matter?
Well, I've done animals and they're not difficult. The key is learning which photographs are the best ones. We use light, medium, and dark or color value in the fabric, but you also have to notice it in the photograph that you choose. That's what the video I uploaded today on my YouTube channel was all about learning to see color value in the picture so you make an appropriate choice. I have, I don't know if it's in the gallery, I can't remember, but there, I know I had it on one of the TV shows with Nancy of of a, uh, a Doberman, no, a golden retriever. It was all yellow. And I've also done one with another dog that was all white. And it's not a problem at all. If she has one that has too many colors, she can reduce the number of fabric in the pattern and it'll automatically make it less of that. You know, I suggest if someone is having trouble like that, come take one of my courses. I have online courses available and I'm right there to help you, and I show you how to, you know, make the appropriate choices. Because it's about what you see with your eyes and making the choice from there in regards to light, medium, and dark in the photograph.
That would be great to have you right there online, taking your online class and your one-on-one help. So there are lots of great reviews at your website too. People have really enjoyed doing that. So I encourage you all to do that. Nicole is asking, Tammy, have you ever created a quilted photography of a celebrity and then met that celebrity?
I didn't meet one personally, but I know the quilt was seen by B.B. King. There was the one that's on the cover of the How to Sew Art book. B.B. King did see it.
Wow, that's amazing. And go ahead, Tammy.
And I did have a student. Her name was Jean. She was from Canada. She came and took my workshop all the way from Canada, and she kept talking about Rod Stewart. And I'm like, do you have a picture? I'll make you a pattern. And then she did it. And then she sent me a picture. You could see it on my website. She went to his concert and held it up, and he invited her backstage. So the photograph on my site is of her and Rod Stewart together holding the quilt. So that was pretty exciting. So.
Very exciting. Vicky is asking, your work is amazing. Do you prefer working with cotton quilting fabrics or do you use other fabrics in your quilts?
You can use anything you want. I use cottons because that's what I'm finding that is the most beautiful. Right now, I still love batiks because they look painted. So it's a starting place to making something that looks like a painting. You know, I mean, they're the most beautiful to me right now, but that doesn't mean other types of fabrics. If they were all calicos or something more traditional, that would be fantastic too.
The piece that I brought in with me to the studio that you gifted to Nancy after your episode is made from batiks. You mentioned batiks, and the many different, maybe only five or seven, like you mentioned in your lecture. Just 5 or 7 different fabrics grouped together. So batiks work great for the technique, and we've also seen your beautiful quilts made from traditional fabrics as well. Bridget is asking, have you had issues with interfacing, pulling apart? And maybe she's meaning the fusible, because I know you use fusible web in your quilts.
I have only when I use Steam-A-Seam Light. So when people use that, I tell them not to use the light version. It's because you want that stabilizer, whatever is underneath holding it together, to remain strong and keep the pieces together. In the light versions, pull apart, so I avoid those.
With all the work you're doing and layers you're adding, you want that stability to avoid that light is a good advice, Tammy. Judy has a question. How do you finish your projects? They look a lot like they are framed.
Yeah, I finish them very simply. If you want to use a binding, I don't have the binding on the front. I just, a lot of times, wrap it around. After stitching say the bias on the edge, then I pull the whole seam and everything to the back and then stitch it or fuse it down on the back so that it has a nice crisp edge, more like a painting than a quilt that you would have on the bed. Or sometimes, like the one you have, I didn't put a binding at all. I just cut it and said, we're done.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, but generally, I do like to put that binding, or I guess you could call it a facing, where I just fold it to the back where it doesn't show on the front.
Mm-hmm. Either way is a beautiful technique. And this is a raw edge quilt, like you mentioned it, Tammy. And it's cut, the edges are cut, but you stitched all the way around it to hold for stability to hold those layers together. But either way, it's a gorgeous technique. And framing them too with an art frame is a great idea too.
Yes. Yeah, I did that for my grandfather. The one that I gave him, we got an acrylic frame, more modern because the quilts are kind of modern. So that's another option.
It really sets them off, and they show on the wall just spectacular, regardless of the finishing treatment. Terry has a question. Do you cut all your pieces one size or different sizes for your shapes?
It depends on the technique again. You know, when we do the strips, you prepare all the fabric at once in strips. But when we do the technique like with the quilt that you're holding, each piece is different. So we don't start with cut fabric at all. Each one of the pieces is cut individually and they're all different. So it depends on the technique. You know,
Right.
there's several ways. You know, it's like all of the quilts begin with the pixels, and each technique is interpreting how that pixel is represented, and that's where the different techniques come in. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Tammy. Kelly is asking, after you have your fabric pieces in place, you fuse it down. Do you simply fuse it down, or do you stitch it down, and how? Do you ever cover it with something like tulle or other pieces?
I fuse it down directly onto the batting. So after you place all the pieces, when I fuse it together, it's directly onto the batting. And I don't use tulle, but that doesn't mean that you can't if that's something you like. You know, everything. Only thing you got to keep that's a must-have is you have to follow the numbers. You have to have a good picture. You have to have your fabric in order from light to dark. Everything else is a design choice. So I would put tulle as a design choice. It's just not one that I make because I like to see the intensity of the fabric. But if you have a reason for it, if all of your fabrics are really bright and you want to tone it down, then that might be a good choice. Mm-hmm.
And many of the quilts that you and Nancy worked on the TV show were free motion machine quilted, like you mentioned. It wasn't something that you did right away, but you got into doing free motion quilting to do your pieces. So moving your quilt top sandwich underneath the needle, free motion with your own hands, and following those edges of the fabrics or the contours in the face. And this quilt has variegated threads, I believe.
Mm-hmm. I love variegated threads. It makes it ties all of those fabrics together. And it also interacts with all the different fabrics, and each one a little bit different while still tying them all together. I love variegated threads. Yeah.
And the threads add a bit of shadowing too. They're not just one-dimensional. It seems to really make it three-dimensional with the different colored threads. So beautiful, whether you switch your threads or choose monofilament thread or threads that have multicolors, you'll have success.
Yeah, I think of it like brush strokes. You know, in a painting, there's texture that's created. Well, we created with thread in our sewing machine.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Yes, artists with our sewing machines. And we have a few more questions, Tammy.
Sure.
Barbara from Arizona has a comment. She's learning a lot. She's just been asked to do a photo piece, and you have inspired her to think beyond the printing the photo and doing the fabric sheets. So thanks for being an inspiration to us today, Tammy.
You're welcome.
Wanda is asking, if I want to digitize a photo in a book, do I take a picture, or how do I get the digital pixels?
Well, I mean, first of all, I have to address if it's a copyrighted thing. I mean, I suppose you can do it if you're just doing it for yourself. Don't try to go sell those things, or you could get yourself in some trouble. Um, but I would probably, if I were going to do that, scan it at the highest resolution you can, and maybe, you'd have to take it into Photoshop, because sometimes with printed pictures, there's like a moire or these other things from when it was screened when they put it in the book that shows up. So, I mean, you kind of have to take that on a case by case basis, and be, try not to steal other people's things for profit, because you could get yourself in trouble. I have to mention that.
We'll stay safe, and we'll start with photos that we've taken ourselves. And I know many of your quilts, Tammy, the photos were taken by your uncle.
Absolutely. The jazz ones, my great uncle was a head photographer at Downbeat magazine back in the 50s. So I really love looking or even making those quilts, because I see those musicians through my uncle's eyes. I'm seeing what I'm imagining how he saw it.
It's
'Cause he was standing right there in front of those people.
We feel, looking at your quilts, we feel like you're standing there with those people too. So it's
Yeah.
exciting that you have those family photos, gorgeous family photos to work from and have great inspiration. Cindy is asking, I once entered a quilt in a show that I hand quilted and stretched over a frame, and they wouldn't accept it. Has that happened to you with your alternative finishing techniques, where it didn't fit into a standard quilt show guidelines?
Well, I mean, I have a couple. I've never stretched it over a quilt stretching bars to try to enter it in a contest. Um, but the ballerina quilt, you may have seen that one. It's at the Shelburne Museum now. It was Ami Sims, who's another quilt author. She was doing a traveling exhibit, and she wanted that quilt to be in the exhibit. So she changed the guidelines to fit because my quilt was long and, long vertically. And so she changed the dimensions for the requirements, because she wanted to have my quilt in the show. So, I mean, it was different than the other quilts that may be more square shaped. But in that case, she changed the requirements because she really wanted to have it in the exhibit. So, I mean, that's two different sides that answer that question.
Right, right. There are shows where the pieces perhaps will work, and find something that works for you. And we appreciate you, Tammy, breaking the rules and
Yeah.
progressing with your technique. It's fun to see how you started with square pieces of fabric and then progressed with sort of quilt by number with organic shapes. And it's truly inspiring. Thank you for being with us today, Tammy.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
And we appreciate all you joining in with us today. And be sure to head over to quiltshow.com and find Tammy in the virtual vendor mall under Mosaic Quilt Studio. And be sure to enjoy all that Quilt Show has to offer with our virtual quilt exhibits too. Enjoy.